My dad used to work for a morgue and he has told me 3 creepy stories. The first one was they were holding a casket down in the basement for a family who was waiting for someone to come home from overseas to have a funeral, and no one told my dad. Apparently all the caskets down there were for show, so he thought it was supposed to be open and opened it only to find that there was a body in it. The second one, it was storming outside and he was trying to move a body from one table to the next. The power went out and he bumped into the other table and the air got pushed out of the lungs, so the body like gasped in his ear. He said every horror movie he had ever seen went running through his mind. The third one, I think, is the more disturbing. They got a call that said there was a bad smell coming from some neighbor's house. It was a dead guy underneath a trailer. He apparently crawled under there to work on pipes or something and died under there, and was found a few days later all dead and bloated. My dad pulled on his arm to drag him out from under the house and pulled his arm right off. Not like his whole arm, but pulled the skin right off the bone. He quit this place several times, but they called him back every time and he always did it to help out. It's such a small town and no one else wanted to do the job, but he finally quit for good when he had to embalm a baby. He said he just couldn't do it anymore after that.
My mom worked at the county morgue part-time to help make extra money when I was 5. It was awful. On my 5th Christmas, I had just gotten my first big boy 2-wheel bike with no training wheels. My mom came home and yelled at me and took the bike away. When I got older, she told me of how that night a boy my age who resembled me had been given his first big bike and was killed on Christmas Eve. The worst story was this. A lady has terminal cancer and was in terrible pain. She had no insurance to pay for treatment. She decided to drink battery acid to kill herself. It was obviously extremely painful and slow. So she then tries to slit her wrists. Soon after, she is found dead and they bag her up and take her to county. Well, by the time they got the body out to do an examination, the woman had accelerated decomposition from the acid and they had to open her in the giant sink because the bag was full of blood and tissue fluid. The entire chest and stomach cavity was rotted out starting at the throat. My mom said it was the most disturbing thing she had ever witnessed and quit that week.
Maya didn't work in a morgue, but was a housekeeper in a hospital, and part of her duties was to clean the morgue. She wasn't thrilled about doing that part of her job. She worked night shift, and the morgue is in this especially creepy part of the hospital. It's in the basement area, not much foot traffic, down a really long, empty hallway with twitching lights overhead. I worked at that hospital as a kid right out of high school some years back, and I remember thinking it felt like you were walking into a creepy horror movie whenever you went down there. Anyway, part of her job was to clean out all the empty morgue coolers. Any of the occupied coolers had a sheet of white paper on the door identifying the person who was in there. She opened one of the empty morgue coolers to disinfect the sliding stretcher inside, and saw a white towel tucked all the way in the back of the cooler. She thought it was just left and forgotten by staff from when the last dead body was in there. She pulled the stretcher out, grabbed the tip of the towel and pulled it out, and a dead newborn baby unraveled out of it. Some pathetic asshole just wrapped the poor baby up in a towel and didn't properly display on the front of the cooler that it was actually occupied.